Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a few more minutes and let folks continue to join us before we get started. Welcome, everyone. We're going to wait another minute or two before we get started here this evening. Let some more folks join us. Welcome, everyone. My name is Pierce Paul Kriesman, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Executive Director of ACOR, the American Center of Research. And we're very grateful for you joining us to hear a wonderful talk, whether you're joining us this evening for us, earlier today in the United States, or online after. You're in for some very interesting discussion and information, and we're grateful for you for joining us. We have a few announcements and some matters of business first, and I'm very sorry to say that our first announcement is a sad one. About a week ago, our dear colleague and friend, Professor Tom Parker, passed away. And I'd like to hold a moment of silence for him now. He's a long-term board member, a cherished friend, and really an intellectual giant in the field of archaeology here in Jordan. And so it's a deeply profound loss. And I hope that for some of you, perhaps hearing this for the first time, that you might join us on our webpage and contribute some more remembrances of him and his life. So just a moment of silence for Tom and his family. Now, I know Tom would be here today if he could, And we wish all the very best for his family on behalf of our president, Skip Ghanim, and the board of trustees. We just want him and his family to know that all of your wishes are welcome, and we're sharing those with his family at the appropriate time. And so if you'd like to, you're welcome to send us a note and we'll make sure that it gets there. Now, before we move on to our lecture this evening, I want to remind everybody of our next lecture as well. On October 12th, trying to be in line with the International Archaeology Day, something that I hope Tom would have been excited for, a lecture about Abila. I hope we might see you then or shortly thereafter online. The best way to keep up to date about these kinds of events, our lectures and other things, of course, is to join our mailing list. You'll see we've just put out our electronic version of our most recent issue of our newsletter. For those who've elected mail options, that will be in your mailbox in the coming week or two. And of course, our monthly updates, one just went out today, reminding everybody of the wonderful events and things and goings on in ACOR and in our sphere. So we hope that you might consider keeping up to date with us on these matters. Now it's truly my pleasure to turn things over to Dr. Helen Malko, who will provide an introduction of our speaker and our work tonight. Helen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Piers Paul. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to ACOR's first public lecture for this fall. We are thrilled to present our second event of the semi-annual ACOR Fulbright Jordan Lecture Series. Our guest today is Hindiyeh, a Fulbright scholar and associate professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of the German Jordanian University. Muna earned a PhD in environmental engineering at the Newcastle University. With a career spanning more than 30 years, she has gained wide experience in applied water and wastewater microbiology, water monitoring and analysis, water treatment, and environmental health engineering. Professor Hindiyeh was appointed head of the Environmental Science Department and assistant professor at the Jordan University for Science and Technology in Erbil from 2000 to 2008. And subsequently, she led the Water and Environmental Engineering Department at the German Jordanian University from 2008 to 2010. She has served as Secretary General Assistant for Water Quality and Laboratories Affairs at the Ministry of Water and Irrigation between 2011 and 2014. She has received numerous awards, including the Arab Award from Sheikh Abdullah Al Mubarak Al Sabah for Science and Research. For scientific research, my apologies. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Muna and hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can I share my presentation?
Yes, please go ahead.
Is it clear?
It is.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we'll talk about Environmental Performance Index and water as a human right in the context of Jordanian assessment approach. So I have like 3 sections in my lecture. One, I will talk about the Environmental Performance Index, the EPI. There were country comparisons. There is also Jordan EPI, and then the second part, I will talk about Ecological Footprint Index, and the third part, I will talk about Sustainable Development Goals with the context of drinking water and human rights, and I will highlight about the case study in Jordan related to the Disi Drinking Water Conveyance Project. So first of all, let's know what is EPI. First, Yale University and Columbia University during 2006, they set pilot Environmental Performance Index, and they establish it according to the environmental sustainability. And later also it is support SDG 2030 and the Paris Agreement for Climate Change, and they issue report every 2 years, the Environmental Performance Index report. So Environmental Performance Index ranks how well countries perform on high priority environmental issues. Of course, this index gives decision makers access to important environmental data. They organize it in very easily understandable, useful, and also help how they diagnostic every issue indicators. Issue by issue we can follow as a country. Also, it's important for decision maker to establish sustainable environmental policy targets. As well, this index allows comparison between neighbors or regions. As well, we can see our own environmental performance as a country over time. For 10 years, we can see how much we improved or we be backslide. This index actually ranks 180 countries' performance on high priority environmental issues, had 2 policy objectives, one related to environmental health, the second is the vital ecosystem. Under these 2 policy objectives, in total, they contain 11 environmental issues areas, and under these 11 environmental issue areas, there were also 32 indicators. The most important things also in this report, they track change over time. Generally 10 years prior to the most recent year of data available, they calculate baseline score and change over time, the 10 years. So we can, within countries, see the trends in performance over time. We can identify area where the progress, where is the stagnation, where is the back sliding. Of course, maybe you will ask from where they can get their data. They get it from academic research center, from trusted third bodies, and from non-government also centers. And they construct indicators on a scale 0 to 100 scale, as you see, and from worst to best performance. Each country then weight and aggregate the scores for indicators into issue categories, and then they calculate it for policy objectives, and finally we have the country EPI score. As you see, the country performance toward 100, that means top performance benchmark, and you can notice your country performance, how far away from the top performance benchmark, or how far away is from the low performance benchmark, how we can improve it to the better rank. I like this framework. It is from 2016 EPI report, but I like it because it is colorful. As you see, we have 2 policy targets, the environmental health and ecosystem vitality, and each one had environmental issues, like environmental health had health impacts, air quality, water and sanitation, while ecosystem included the climate, energy issues, biodiversity, habitat, fisheries, forest, agriculture, water resources, and the other indicators under these environmental issues. Now for the new report 2020, we can notice that they include more new indicators. This is the first time they include waste management metric, which is very important. Also, they include the pilot indicator for CO2 emission from land coverage change. They include deepened analysis for air quality update measurements of PM particulate matter 2.5 micrometer, as well for biodiversity, marine trophic index, biodiversity habitat index, and for climate change fluorinated gases, that is important for greenhouse gases track. This framework from the 2020 report showing the weight of each indicator. For policy targets, we can see the weight of ecosystem vitality is more than 60%. It's 60%. Comparing for environmental health, the weight of this indicator is 40%. This is very important for environmental expert and decision maker for each country to know exactly where have to work to improve their ranking, especially when they know that the weight like ecosystem vitality is more, the biodiversity habitat 50%, climate change has weight 24%, for environmental health, air quality 20%, sanitation and drinking water 16% weight. This slide will show us the good policy results that associated with wealth. When there is increasing in GDP per capita, we notice that these countries, they have money, they can have infrastructure well operated, they have good water quality, have environmental health in good situation. This is what good policy results associated with wealth GDP. Let's see now whose countries are the best. Actually, the 10 countries are the best in their EPI ranking is Denmark, European countries. Actually, the 10 countries are European countries. The first are Denmark, 1 out of 180 countries. They have a score, EPI score 82 over 100. Luxembourg have ranking the second in all over the world, 180 countries with a score EPI 82. So the 10th country is Germany. These countries actually, when we say that they are top, they have high scores because they have long-standing policies, they have good programs to protect public health, they preserve natural resources, they decrease greenhouse gas emission, as well they decarbonize their electricity sectors. Also, they made commitment to a carbon-free future, renewable energy and sustainable agriculture. Most of these European countries, they have signatories to Paris Agreement. They had commitment to have net zero carbon emission by 2050. Let's go to next slide, which show the lowest ranking, lowest scores countries. We can notice that Liberia had the lowest score countries, 180 out of 180 countries with 22 over 100 out of 100. It is really very low. Sorry, and Afghanistan, for example, 178. Also, we have India, Nigeria, very low scores, EPI, because they don't look to the sustainability requirement spectrum. Also, they have a lot of critical issues like air, water quality issues, biodiversity, and also like Nepal, Afghanistan, they have civil unrest. So the low scores always attributed to weak governance. If you see also USA, they have the 21st ranking for 2020 performance index report. China, which suffers always from poor air quality, has made significant investment in solar energy and reducing its dependence on coal. This in 2020 report, helping it to climb the ranking to 120 place. China is still a big polluter, but has made much more dramatic progress than other countries. For India, for example, I just give it an example. This is the city's shocking under polluted air quality. The ranked reached 168 out of 180 countries. Let's see in the Middle East, in Arab country leagues, for example, we have the United Emirates. They have ranking 42 out of 180. This is the first of Arab countries, the United Arab Emirates, in the ranking of EPI. The second, Kuwait. The third country of Arab countries is Jordan. Bahrain 56, Iran 67, Tunisia 71, Algeria, as well as for the Middle East, as well as we have Saudi Arabia. Also, the ranking is very low. This is a country profile. For Jordan, we can see that we have country rank 48 out of 180, and the score of Jordan 53. As you know, the GDP per capita 8,400, population 10 million, and we have 91% of our land is urbanized. These slides will show in details what we have, what is the ranking for each of policy targets or objectives underlined with the environmental issues and indicators. So for environmental health, as you remember, had under environmental health, the air quality, sanitation, drinking water, heavy metals, and waste management. For environmental health, the ranking is 44 out of 180 countries. Air quality, actually, it's good. The 36 ranking out of 180 countries. We have household fuels 100%. We have high one over 180 countries, because in my country, in Jordan, we don't burn wood or for stoves or cooking, etc. But unfortunately, for PM particulate matter 2.5 micrometer exposure, we are in very bad scores, very low, as well as for ozone exposure. Actually, we have to do a lot of work on this in order to improve our air quality indicators and score for the future. For sanitation and drinking water, we are in a good shape. We need to improve, but as you know, we have more than 30 wastewater treatment plants. Jordanian people, more than 98% are connected to potable water. So this is a good ranking for Jordan in this indicators. Heavy metals, especially for lead exposure, we need to do a lot of work. So we have to improve this score to less lead exposure, enforce legislations to improve this indicator to make it as better as possible. For waste management, controlled solid waste, also there is a lot of things we have to do regarding the controlled solid waste. For biodiversity and habitat, this is the hard part. Actually, it's really, we are behind in this score. 154 out of 180 of countries is really too bad. Due to bad scores for terrestrial biomass, bad score in protected area representative index, as well for species protection index. For ecosystem services, the grand loss, actually, this is make it really behind. It is 127, and also our improvement, really nothing. We didn't do anything through the 10 years of this study. So it's really very bad regarding the grassland loss. For the climate change, as we see, the government did good job for gas growth rate through the 10 years. As you see, they worked hard on the regulations, laws, on the imports, exports, refrigerators, etc. This is help that we improve this indicator. As well for black carbon growth rate, 61. scores, and they work also through this 10 years really very hard to improve this score. But for greenhouse gas intensity growth rate, as you see, we have through the 10 years we didn't do much on that. For pollution emission, actually, we have bad score because of success growth rate, and also there is nothing being done too much through the 10 years, and this is shown in this table. NOxes, it's excellent. We have 100 scores, API scores, and they work on it all this 10 years. Agriculture, also bad ranking, 139 regarding the sustainable nitrogen management index. So let's see in summary what is our improvement achieved. We showed 10-year trend as 11-point improving. We have ranking 48th position out of 180. If I want to compare it with the 2018 report, we climbed 14 places. That is a good job has been done from the Jordanian Ministry, Environmental Ministry, and any related NGOs to this sector, the environment and water and agriculture. So we are summarizing what we have been seen in the tables. There is 3 large increases. There is increases in the points during the 10 years regarding the fluorinated gas growth rate, black carbon growth rate under climate change, and NOx's growth rate under pollution emission. The deterioration indicators, as we saw, the biodiversity and habitat, they positioned way down to 154. Unfortunately, agriculture also slipped in a key index rating 139, PM 2.5 exposure rank 131, and for exposure to lead 95, and for solid waste management 76. So we need in this area, the decision makers, they have to put money, they have to make infrastructures, they have to enforce laws or set laws to improve all these indicators that we show really behind backslides scores. Also, this is showing nothing has been done or improving through the 10 years. The points is really negative regarding the grassland loss, success growth rate, and greenhouse gas intensity growth rate, and species habitat index. The second part of the ecological is the ecological footprint of this lecture. Is the second part about the ecological footprint index. We can see that definition of ecological footprint index, how fast we consume resources and generate waste, and we will compare it with the biocapacity, what we call it, how fast nature absorbs our waste and generate new resources. So ecological footprint, it is also quantification in global hectares, and also we will see number of planets, how much we want to use planets, we demand planets and natural resources to absorb our waste and our high consumption. So ecological footprint measures how fast we consume and generate waste, and we compare it to the biocapacity, what we call it, how fast the nature able to generate resources, natural capital, and how much the earth can absorb our waste. Natural capital, maybe all they know what we mean about natural capital word, stock of natural resources, cotton, wood, geology, rocks, soil, air, water, all living organism. The world average ecological footprint 2021 report was 2.75 global hectares per person. And the average biocapacity was 1.63. So when we have ecological footprint higher than the biocapacity, then that means that we have global deficit. So we have world average global deficit, 1.1 global hectares per person. So this is the meaning of ecological deficit, when we have population ecological footprint exceeds the region's biocapacity. Ecological reserve, when a region biocapacity exceeds its population ecological footprint. Of course, it's very important index because it will show us the consumption, how we are impact on the planet. We can show how we can improve our sustainability and well-being, and the leaders can optimize investment for public projects. The ecological footprints and biocapacities vary greatly between countries. It depends on geography, population size, and environmental policies. This global map can show the ecological footprint per capita. We can notice that Africa, India, Pakistan, they have less ecological footprint. They have high biocapacity. That means the nature can absorb their waste, and they have a lot of natural capital in their countries. Comparing with this brown countries like USA, Canada, Russia, European countries, the ecological footprint high, and the biocapacity of the nature, they cannot tolerate the waste, and they cannot absorb the waste, and there is less of natural capital inside. Jordan ecological footprint is 2.1 per capita. We have deficiency in biocapacity. The total biocapacity deficient is minus 13.25. This is the 2021 report. This figure showing us a comparison between 1961 and 2008, and can show the Mediterranean countries comparing with 1961 and 2008. We can see the green countries in 1961, like Algeria, Libya, Morocco, Syria, Tunisia, Turkey, were characterized by ecological reserve situation. They have biocapacity more than 150 greater than footprint. Comparing with 2008, you can see that countries now, most of them, they have footprint more than 150 greater than biocapacity. This slide will show the most ecological footprint countries. The highest, China is the worst, that has high ecological footprint. For Arab countries, we can notice like UAE, United Arab Emirates, they need a number of Earth required 6 planets. They need 6 planets to absorb their waste and to give their natural capital products for their high consumption. As you notice here, maybe the Gulf area, they have like Qatar, they need 6 Earth to reach the biocapacity. Bahrain 5, Kuwait 3, Lebanon and Jordan, they need like one planet is enough for the Jordanian. This is show the least ecological footprint, and for Arab countries, we can notice Palestine, Yemen, Morocco, they need less than half planets. They have a lot of natural capital, they can absorb the waste, and they have high biocapacity. Now we will go to the third part of my presentation. We will talk about the water human rights, and we'll tackle the Disi project, Drinking Water Conveyance Project, and we'll see if it's really follow the human rights parts that they have to fulfill the human rights points. First, I would like to say the challenges in water sector in Jordan is multi-layered. We cannot separate scant supplies from complications of inadequate infrastructure. Also, we have under-resourced operations. We need also human capacity building for engineers and for future leaders in this sector. Also, we have problem with government actors who lack the teeth to enforce regulation. From here, let's see now for United Nations, what did they do regarding the human right for water sector? In 2010, actually, United Nations adopted a historical resolution recognizing that the right to safe and clean drinking water and sanitation as a human right that is essential for enjoyment of life and all human rights. There is two definitions of terms I want from you to differentiate. We have terms like water rights. Water rights mean that this is normally regulated under national laws, regulated by state, by government, and individuals through property rights or land rights. They have agreement between the state and landowner. Such rights are often temporary and can potentially be withdrawn. So if you didn't pay the bills, water bills, then you will not have water. But when we talk about human rights to water and sanitation, it is neither temporary nor subject to state approval. It is nobody can withdraw it from you. It is your right to have the human rights to water and sanitation. Our SDG, of course, aims to allow all people in all countries to benefit from socio-economic development and also insist on the human rights without discrimination, especially on the basis of gender, age, race, language, religion, political, residency, refugees, whatever we shouldn't do any discrimination. The human rights with SDG 2030, it's really one of the targets of SDG 2030. We have to fulfill the human rights, water and sanitation that require, we have to have services to be available, physically accessible to your house and schools and university and hospitals, equitably affordable, safe and culturally acceptable. This slide shows us the clean water targets for 2030, and target 1, it is talk about achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. Target 2, achieve the access of equitable sanitation and hygiene for all. Also, we have to end up defecation. We have to pay special attention to women and girls and sick people. Also, we have to minimize and eliminating dumping, release hazardous chemicals to water. And we try to increase the safe reuse of water, wastewater globally. This is a question I would like to ask you. Maybe I will not answer it in this lecture. Let's think about it. Is it the water right or it is commodity? So this is also a lot of debate on such terms. About the water availability, we know that it depends on amount of water physically available, how it is stored, managed, allocated to various users, also how we manage the surface water, groundwater, and we recycle or reuse the water. So the availability of water, it has to be sufficient and continuous for personal and domestic use, continuous, but you know, in Jordan, we have water once a week. So it has to be used for drinking, personal sanitation, washing clothes, food preparation, personal and household hygiene. If we return back to the World Health Organization, they set 50 liters of water per person per day. This is the minimum water we can give to the people that needed to ensure that no sick or any risk to public health. So the minimum in all over the world, now they use it for refugee camps They can, for example, in Jordan, because we don't have water, so we cannot give refugee too much water, for example. So as known, it has, we can use within human rights the minimum amount. This is the 50 liters of water per person per day that will not have any sickness for the public health. And everyone, they have right to water and sanitation services physically accessible within immediate vicinity, inside our houses, in the schools, in the hospitals. So WHO set that the water source has to be within 1,000 meters of the home, and collection time should not exceed 30 minutes walk to reach the water source. So this what I've been highlighted is the international benchmark, and then we can compare it what we have in our situation Jordanian project. When we talk about water accessibility, then we have to look to the design of facilities, the toilets, the sinks for kindergartens, children in schools, for disability, for women, elderly people. It has to be designed that help all people sectors. For physically delivered, we know that piped water is the least costly method to transport water in densely populated areas. Sometimes if you don't have water, so you have to go to rely on wells or to buy from water trucks. And this is also high prices. This is also, it will be under less quality, and also maybe inequities between rich and poor people. That's what we have in Jordan. If we have Jordanian listeners now, they can know that this is water trucks where we buy water, potable water, when we don't have water from the government. Also, some terms I would like to differentiate. We have discrimination in different ways. If it's direct discrimination, then maybe discrimination, it has to be individuals are discriminated against in laws, policies, and practices intentionally. So they exclude them from service provision or equal treatment. Indirect discrimination, it sits very well in regulations and laws and policies, seem neutral at face value, but in practice, there is exclusion from provision of basic services. So, it's very important that states have an adequate subsidy mechanism in place to ensure the services always remain affordable for the poor. And UNDP suggests that water costs should not exceed 3% of household income. So disconnection of water services because of failure to pay due to a lack of means may constitute a violation of human rights. Actually, Jordanian government during the coronavirus pandemic, they reconnect each house during the pandemic because they are disconnected because they don't pay their bills, but during the pandemic they reconnected again, even they don't pay the bills, because this is a human right, and this pandemic is hygienic and need water for cleaning to reduce the numbers of contamination from coronavirus. The safety of the water, of course, shouldn't have color, odor, or taste, and should be free from microorganisms, of any chemical substances or radiological hazards that make threat to person's health. Now let's start to talk about our project, the Disi project for drinking water that has been launched in 2013. They transfer water from the south, from Disi aquifers to Amman for more than 320 kilometers, and also serve many of governorates all the way, the Karakman and Tafile, and then going to Saifa, Madaba, and Zarqa, and to the north. Depositing 100 million cubic meter. When it reached to Amman, they separate reservoirs, two separate reservoirs in Greater Amman area. For East Amman, the water going to Abu Alanda reservoir. For West Amman, the water from Disi were going to the Dabouk reservoir. Everybody happy when the project has been launched, because we really feel more comfortable, less complaining when we have more increased hours of water providing and increase the quantity. So let's now tackle each points in how did the Disi project support the human rights. For sufficient, everyone has been feel that there is increased sufficiency, except this summer, and the quantity has been increasing than before 2013. It has been before the project 83 meter cubic per capita per day, and some governorates maybe will reach 20 meter cubic per capita per day. East Amman residents are now receiving 51 hours per week, eliminating shortage that predated the project. For West Amman residents, also there is improvements in water supply, and the number of complaining that's received by WAJ, by Water Authority, has been less. But in fact, that West Amman, they don't rely on municipality supplied water for drinking. They use bottled water, mineral water, unfortunately. And this water from Disi is high quality, actually. For maintenance and infrastructure, because we have leakage rates from water systems in Jordan reach up more than 50%, unfortunately, this is undermine Disi project benefits, because we lose many and it turned to negative impacts on human rights. For right to health, it's the age of this water in Disi aquifers more than 30,000 years old. It's really very old, high quality water. Salinity is very low, except that we have radiological elements, because naturally we have sandstone aquifer and very old water that leached uranium and thorium, elevating the radium 226 and radium 228. It has been over the WHO and Jordan safe drinking water standards. But the solution now they mix the Disi water with effluents of drinking water treatment plants, and from the wells of Zara Ma'in, and now the level of radiation elements has been dropped to the Jordanian standard. Accessibility, as I mentioned, 98% of households have piped water, which is excellent. Government subsidy, the Disi water pumping cost very high because they use energy intensive in pumping. So especially now when the fuel tariffs are eliminated, so the cost per cubic meter more and more. So, but there is subsidy from government, so only users pay 10% of the actual cost of municipal water, 10% only of the actual cost of municipal water. The good thing of this project that Disi project is preserving the right to water for future generation. How? We have been taking water from Rusaifa wells, from Azraq aquifers, from Madaba, from Karak wells. So now when we have water from the Disi, we divert it back all these water to the origin within Jordan governorates. So this will help less extraction rates from different governorates help that water will be safe for future generation. So this is the map showing turnout to Madaba, turnout to Karak, Tafile Ma'an from Disi Wellfield pump station. The also negative point on this project we faced as a Jordanian that, for example, in the first 6 months of 2019, Jordan Water Ministry recorded 61 violations and acts of sabotage at the DC project facility. They, despite state-assigned patrols to protect them, they have drones, also now cameras to control if there is any theft. This is we have to enforce our laws. Any violation of water laws or on the water projects face jail up to 5 years and fines up to 7,000 JD. Regarding the revenues, of course, government of Jordan, because of the theft, because of continuous dumping of good quality of water to the soil during the water theft. So this is make a problem in generate revenues and in maintaining sustainable of the water infrastructure. The last thing is the discrimination and governance and transparency as right to water. Actually, 10 million people in Jordan, they have 100 million cubic meter from DC project. Actually, also 3 companies with water intensive agricultural enterprises, they have 90 million cubic meters of drinking water of the DC aquifers for agriculture. This is really discrimination, and this is drinking water. We cannot use it for agriculture. They have to find solution of this discrimination and non-transparency. So these farms are run by large corporations which flood, irrigate water-intensive crops like citrus to export to Europe. And other Jordanians, they are poor. They don't have efficient water to drink. So even we know that 60% of the country's water go for agriculture sector, and only we generate 30% of GDP, nothing. So let's see the human right to water supply and sanitation. We have 3, 4, 5 pyramid, 3 obligation, fulfill, protect, respect. 4 principles: participation, transparency, accountability, and non-discrimination. And 5 criteria, what we've been shown: quality, accessibility, availability, affordability, and acceptability. At the end, I would like to see, with all these violent conflicts around us, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, there is a significant population movement to Jordan. We have a lot of refugees influx into Jordan. This is already overstressed our water system. In this context, the politician, media, public, all they are so happy with the DC project, because without DC, maybe we will have bad situation, stress and water systems, because we have 1.5 million of Syrian refugees, for example. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Mona. This was really very interesting and important presentation, and a very important topic globally and locally. So thank you very much. There are a few questions actually in the question and Q&A box. So we will try to take as many as possible, considering the time. So we have a question from Hur. I think she or he, they say, what kind of policy implementation challenges stand in the way of achieving higher EPI scores in Jordan? Which do you think are the most pressing, and how do you think they can be overcome? I think there are like 3 questions in this.
Do you want me to answer directly or?
Yes, yes, please.
For policy challenges, as we see from our ranking, we have to support the agricultural policy thoroughly. The biodiversity, as I mentioned, this is really very critical. The waste management, also indicators for waste management is really very, very hard to us. We see people throwing everywhere the trash. So this is unethical, and we need to do a lot of things in schools, in houses, reuse, recycle. We have to have well-designed engineering, solid waste dumping side. For biodiversity, of course, we have to take care about our forest. Now is not included in the EPI, actually, the forest, because we don't have forest, but we have to work on this thoroughly, because we had to start it even in the schools to planting trees, and everywhere try to plant near the effluents of wastewater treatment plant, where we have water as much as we can, trees, to improve our score, especially in forest and in agriculture. So we need a lot of things to do, actually. But we have to prioritize our important policy activities, plans, to increase our score and to increase our environmental health policy and our vital ecosystem policy.
Thank you very much, Mina. We are able to take another question. This is from Stefan. The question is the PM 2.5 score. In what extent is this due to natural circumstances, meaning dust in the air, due to the desert environment?
Good question, actually. It will enter to our lungs. You know, it can go through the barriers, and due to the dust storms, actually, we have also bad ranking on such things, especially we are in a desert. So when we have these storms during the springs, we notice that a lot of dust storms as well in end of summer. So this is actually had a lot of impact on our health. But for ranking, I think they solve this problem that because it will impact a lot on the scoring, especially in the Gulf area. So the impact of this dust scoring is completely different than the other things as a polluter.
Okay. One more question. What have been the reasons, environmental, social, and/or political, governmental, for the low scores in biodiversity in agriculture?
I don't understand it well, please. Can you repeat?
Yes. What have been the reasons, whether environmental, social, and/or political or governmental, for the low scores in biodiversity in agriculture?
The reasons, of course, we have to work from social point of view regarding awareness for the people, for the mothers inside house and in the schools from early childhood. They have to be aware, children, how to take care about taking care of the natural assets we have as a biodiversity, appreciate these natural capital from social point of view, from laws, enforcing laws and from environmental indicators as well. This is, as I understand, maybe you can call me later and we can discuss it more if you like.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we can take one more question. This one, it says, excellent presentation. Can you address steps that could be taken to enforce regulations governing water usage and conservation?
Again.
I can, do you want me to repeat it? I can.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So can you address steps that should or could be taken to enforce regulations governing water usage and conservation?
For steps for enforcement laws, you mean? First of all, we have to put everyone in Jordan under the law, under the laws, because when we have corruption or someone will not follow with the laws and they permit him to do that, this is really make life difficult to enforce the laws. This is, I think, one of our major problem that we have to solve it, that everyone in Jordan has to be under the law. Nobody has to be out, and no fines, or they will not get any fines because he had above the law. So I think if we solve such a problem socially, maybe then everything will be perfect, and we will go in a good track to solve other steps regarding the influence and enforce the laws.
Thank you very much. This will be our last, and I like it because it brings it down to an individual level. How can we all contribute? So what can the average person here in Jordan do to help improve the water situation or ecological footprint? We have ecological footprint. Actually, in one of my slides, I put link how to calculate calculator. It is a calculator calculating the ecological footprint for each person. And it's really very nice quiz and can show you exactly where you have problems and that increasing your ecological footprint that you can solve. You know, if you eat meat, or you using transportation with coal fuel, or you use bicycle, or you more walking. So for each one really had footprint to improve our ecological footprint that will save the earth that we are live. This is our home. The earth is our home. So everyone has a role to improve how to reuse paper, how to using water, etc. So it's a long, nice calculator quiz telling everyone, when you do it by yourself, you can see where is your deficiency, and you can improve yourself to initiate a good score for ecological footprint for each person. Thank you very much. I think we will come to the conclusion of today's lecture. Thank you very much, Muna, for this very informative, very important presentation and for the information you shared with us. I would like to remind everyone that this talk is being recorded and that it will be available on ACOR's YouTube channel for you to go back to the talk, or if you want to share it with your students or colleagues. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Mona. We appreciate it, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you for you all.